Hello.
Oh dear.
Messed this up again. I've always messed Hello. Something about Paul Heyman we're doing. It's the Smackdown and Rampage podcast. I'm here. I've been put in charge of the tech, and I don't know what's going on because Pete is away, and I can't log into anything. My camera's broken. It's all gone Pete Tong. But I am joined by Tempest, who is normally here. Tempest, why don't you know how anything works?
I know how things work.
No, well, why didn't you fix that then? Why did that go wrong? You've embarrassed me, Tempest. You've embarrassed me, Tempest.
I was dancing. I don't know.
So, hey, guess what? Big news, guys. Big news. On SmackDown this week, in the normal Roman Reigns talking about Brock Lesnar segment, finally things came to a head with Paul Heyman, and Paul ended up being fired from the bloodline. This was kind of like a through line throughout this entire episode after Paul had essentially accidentally advocated for Brock Lesnar last week in a bit that happened with Sami Zayn, which obviously pissed off Roman. Roman wasn't there last week, and then Paul spent most of the episode stood in the parking lot waiting for Roman to turn up. It's just I don't know, man, just sit in the dressing room, wait until he gets here. He waits in the parking lot for the first bit. Then a car pulls up and he's like, my tribal chief. And Brock Lesnar gets out in these amazing, incredible dungarees that I cannot get over the sort of like hardcore Wurzel Gummidge vibes that Brock Lesnar is putting out there at this moment in time. This builds to a moment in which basically in the ring, Roman arrives, blanks Heyman, gets out of the wrong side of the car, which you can tell he's pissed because he's got out the wrong side of the car. They then wander off to into the ring, and Roman gives Heyman the opportunity to explain himself. Basically, the Usos are there; they've lost earlier in the evening. Roman says to them, I prefer it if my cousins win. I don't like it when they lose, but as we're blood, we can get over that, right? Then they said, Paul, you're not blood, so we're going to have to question you a little bit. He says, did you know that Brock Lesnar was coming back at SummerSlam? Did you know that he was going to be at Madison Square Garden? Did you know that his suspension was going to be lifted? Are you a special counsel or are you an advocate? Which I think this little bit was really well done. I think obviously, like, typically Heyman and Reigns are kind of the highlights of SmackDown. Yeah. And then they had this really wonderful little moment where Paul says, he says, I'm on your team. It wasn't that I've been protecting. Roman asked him, were you protecting Brock from me? He goes, no, I wasn't protecting Brock from you. I was protecting you from Brock. And then there's this fascinating little bit of interplay between the two of them where Roman looks at him and you think, that will be the thing that pushes Roman over the edge. And it's not like Roman snaps. Roman does this amazing, he gives him a cuddle and he says, I love you, wise man. And then he says, thank you for being honest. And then he says, you're fired. And it just had this really like mafia moment to it, right? It had this whole sort of that real feeling of like there's genuine affection there, but it has to be this way. You've gone too far. You've overstepped the mark. So we're gonna have to like put you down. What did you make of it, Tempest?
We gotta put you down, man.
We're gonna put you down, Heyman.
It was kind of interesting to me because we've been skirting this line since before SummerSlam. Maybe not before SummerSlam, maybe since SummerSlam when Brock came back. This has just kind of been like their running storyline where they do little teases, but no big major turning point moments in this segment. And this was really like the first big turning point of this storyline. Like we had the Saudi Arabia match where they went in, but nothing was really solved there. It was just more questions. This was the first time that we got some answers. And it's just interesting. I think everything that Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman and the Usos were doing in this segment was really good. I always love the subtlety of these kind of segments where you can tell a lot just by looking at like the background characters while other people are talking. You look at the Usos and you get their reaction while Roman Reigns is doing his thing. And I like that the Usos and Roman Reigns' reactions are very different because they're very different characters. I just think there's a lot of really good character writing in these kind of segments, and it's stuff that we sure don't get on most of the rest of SmackDown. But I'm really interested to see where this sort of thing still goes, because Paul Heyman didn't say that he was like advocating for Brock Lesnar. He was just, doing things that made Roman Reigns upset. So you could go to day one and have Roman and Brock and have, Brock be in a position to win, and have Paul Heyman do something to have Roman Reigns retain the title. Because I still don't think the title's changing hands before WrestleMania at the very earliest. So there's a lot of ways that you can kind of work your way through this. And I'm still really intrigued as to where we go with the whole storyline. So this to me was a good segment. I walked away from the end of SmackDown going like, hell yeah, Brock Lesnar came out and he beat up Roman Reigns. And you don't usually get to see Roman Reigns just laying at the end of a show too. So seeing all of this again was really, really interesting. And I think it was a good shot in the arm for this storyline. Because I know Pete was saying that he wasn't a big fan of just like how long it's been going on and needed something different. This was something different. So this gets a thumbs up.
Yeah, I think that, we've seen a lot of this kind of will they, won't they break up angle between Roman and Heyman, and whose side is Heyman on. And it's nice to finally sort of get a resolution to that to some degree, but a resolution that leaves things open because, yes, Roman turns around like cold clocks Heyman when he's not looking. Then he like sets up for a concerto. Like this is going big on this moment. And then Brock arrives in his like stretch farmer strong, like running out, hits people with the farm hands, hits some F5s, powers through a super kick, and then powers through being hit with a chair from Roman Reigns to stand up into an F5, hits another one on Reigns, which I just thought this was just an incredible moment. Like this was like Brock unhinged. Like Brock has been on the ranch and he's powered up to the nines. He gets his mana back when he spends time in the wilds. But he's got this presence to him now, and he's got this kind of ruthlessness. And yeah, like we've obviously had the crown jewel match, and we've had Heyman wavering there, and we've had the bloodline kind of overpowering Lesnar and tricking him and all that kind of stuff. This is now an unhinged Brock Lesnar who's sort of quite chipper about his role, really, in wanting to just come out and lay waste to Roman Reigns. So this really does feel like this felt like payoff to what Heyman had said earlier when he says, "I'm protecting you from Brock Lesnar." Because what has happened now is he says that to Roman Reigns. That insults Roman's honor. Roman says, "Well, that's it. You're fired." And then immediately Heyman is proven right. So now Roman has put a wedge between him and his wise man, the person he needs to kind of come up with a strategy and help him. And that is fundamentally it, right? Like this could be a situation in which you go into day one and Roman makes a critical error that he never thought about because Heyman wasn't there, or Heyman does something huge to buy back favor with Roman Reigns, thus costing Brock the title. Or Heyman's pissed now, and Heyman helps Brock win the title. So it's like this was a great segment because it had a lot of drama. It had a lot of character work between really well-established teams and kind of the kind of stuff you want to see drawn out of the history of all of these characters. But it leaves it all open for multiple different angles to play out on day one, which is what you want. You don't want the surprise to basically be given away ahead of the show. So I thought this was all really, really good stuff in what was otherwise a pretty boring show.
We'll get to it. We'll get to the rest of it. But I think we finally found the guy that can overcome WWE's bad booking of baby faces. And the secret is you just have to pay someone as much as you pay Brock Lesnar, and you can't screw it up anymore. If they paid everybody $5 or $6 million a year, everyone would be booked well.
Yeah, no, that's true. But I love the idea also. Yeah, that's it. So you got to take care because you're paying him a lot of money every single year. But I love the fact that they also just didn't care about. They don't care what he looks like anymore. They don't care about kind of the mystique of Brock Lesnar. They're just like, yeah, man, turn up in whatever you want from whatever you were wearing before. He looks like he's like pre-she's all that. is what Brock Lesnar
Yeah.
dresses like now. He looks like he's like, take your glasses off, let your hair down, and you're one step away from going to junior prom. Like that's what Brock Lesnar looks like at the moment, and it's brilliant. I love it.
It's wonderful. It's so wonderful. I mean, Brock Lesnar coming out in like a denim jacket and overalls, fresh off the farm. He's probably got some deer's blood on his hands, hasn't washed it off. Like this to me is the most entertaining Brock Lesnar that I've seen in quite a while. And he's so good and he's so big a star that you can't just like bury him on every show like you do with most baby faces. So to have him come out and not be stupid and go out and stand tall at the end of a show, like how often do you get to see baby faces stand tall at the end of SmackDown? Like it just doesn't happen that often. So if Brock Lesnar is the one guy that's going to do that, that's fine with me. It means more good segments, and I like good segments.
I really want a Von Wagner-esque Man in the Woods segment to be filmed with new Brock Lesnar now. I'm desperate for the continuation of the Kyle O'Reilly Von Wagner buddy comedy, but now it's just Brock Lesnar. I want to see him on a combine harvester. I want to see him milk a cow. I want to see him shear a sheep. I want to see all sorts with Brock Lesnar.
I feel like he could be like the beast in the woods if you want to turn Kyle O'Reilly and Von Wagner's workout videos into a horror film. There's just they come across Brock Lesnar hunting, or maybe Brock Lesnar's the other part of the buddy cop film. I feel like he would probably eat Von Wagner if they were stuck in the woods together and Von Wagner was being annoying.
What if Brock Lesnar was the man in the woods that Bray Wyatt was banging on about the entire time?
Oh, I hadn't considered that.
I don't think so. We'll crack on with the rest of the show in a moment. We've got a couple of Ultra Chats that have come in. Please do get your Ultra Chats in to let us know what you thought of SmackDown and of AEW Rampage, because we'll be reading all of them before the end of the show. Just in general WWE chat, though, Zoe Sung said, so I fell asleep at 8:20 Eastern. Don't worry, Tempest, I got you. Bron Breaker, the building block Pokemon. This Pokemon is the evolved form of Conkeldurr. This Pokemon is known for probabilities, dogs, and rainbow backgrounds.
Probabilities.
Form of Conkeldurr. Conkeldurr.
We always appreciate Zoe's Pokedex entries for wrestlers on these shows. Oh, shout out to Bron Breaker. He's got a dumb name.
We'll do a very quick couple of other ones. This is an AEW chat. Valab Mamadipudi says, the hot dogging from Brian during the breaks took me out of it a bit. People who felt negatively with the match. I don't watch other wrestling. Not entirely sure. The hot dogging from Brian during the breaks took me out of it a bit. People who felt negatively with the match, I feel don't watch other wrestling. Are we talking about Brian versus Hangman here?
Hangman, I would imagine.
Which I still haven't seen. I've been in London for a week and I've not had a chance to really be on the internet, frankly.
Yeah.
Hannah Allen says, hey guys, full disclosure, thank you for just being awesome dudes. I'm throwing a hook, lads. You're so special to so many of us and you get me through my days without complaint. So much love. For every negative comment, let my love send off. And then it's LIW 4444 live, which I can't do in the way you guys do because I haven't practiced. But thank you so much, Hannah. That's a really kind comment. Mary Painesville Dan says, hey, Laurie. Hey, Tempest. Hope you're doing well. Sending this in early because I don't think I told anyone yet. I am seeing Walter versus Cara Noir tonight live at WXW. Oh, Dan. Man, I want to see that match. Cara Noir is so good. So good. Oh, I'm actually incredibly jealous of that. Incredibly jealous. Right. Well, why don't we fly through SmackDown, Tempest? Because not a lot really happened on this. It was a show very light on your wrestling. There was a lot of backstage segments. Not many of them were very interesting or very good. We started with a recap of what happened last week with Sami Zayn, and then we saw Paul Heyman standing outside waiting for the Universal Champion to arrive. We then got Sasha Banks and Toni Storm versus Shotzi and Charlotte Flair in a what I thought was pretty generic, pretty sloppy, quite boring tag match. I don't know about you.
Give it a lot of time. You know, I
Yes,
thought it was decent enough, but I was watching this match and I swear this match was like 20 minutes at least. You know, it felt like because they were in Chicago, obviously, and Chicago is a big wrestling market. So it felt like they went into that and let some of these matches have a little bit more time than they would have otherwise. I mean, we got a lengthy tag match between the War Raiders and Jinder Mahal and whatever the other one's name is, Shankey. You know, so I mean, they were clearly letting people go out there and wrestle a little bit more than they would have otherwise. And this was one where I was like, I thought it was like, it was decent. You know, I watched it and I was like, well, I'd rather they do this than throw pies at each other. So there's that. I don't know why Toni Storm reacted the way that she did.
Sail over Tempest.
You have no idea, man. Watching these shows the last few weeks has been a struggle. But Toni Storm pinning Charlotte Flair and celebrating like she'd never beaten anybody before is kind of depressing to me because I don't want the baby faces to be surprised that they win. You know, I don't like that. It's not like she's Fuego del Sol out here who never wins, you know, and if you get one win, that would be like, oh, wow. And I know she kind of is that way because she's booked poorly, but she shouldn't be, is my point. You know, she shouldn't be a Fuego del Sol.
You gotta protect Charlotte.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was the fact that just like thinking back to this match, I remember nothing from this match, frankly. Like it literally just washed over me. There was nothing remarkable or even particularly creative in a tag team contest here. There wasn't particularly any moments of even synergy between the teams. Really, like there was one moment where Charlotte set something up and Shotzi went for it and she missed. That was about it. Sasha had a really good hot tag, I thought, where she came off did a leaping armbar and she countered Charlotte's sort of tilt-a-whirl thing into a sort of body press, and then she hit like a set of double knees in the corner. That was quite cool. I think the rest of it just didn't hang together with pace, and yeah, it felt the length that they gave it. Now, we normally would say to the WWE don't give things enough time. This didn't have enough to it to really fill the amount of time that it was given, for my money. And yeah, like you said, like Toni Storm getting the roll up on Charlotte and then being super shocked that she did, even though she's going to face her next week, just all feels a bit like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. Nothing is going to come from this. This feud just will continue until the end of time, which is what all of SmackDown felt like to me.
Pretty much. And I saw, no kidding. I saw someone on Twitter say like, oh, why are they having this match on SmackDown next week? You could have it at the pay-per-view. And then they're like, who am I kidding? This match is going to end with a non-finish and then they'll just run it back at the pay-per-view. And I'm like, yeah, they really are, aren't they? That's probably what's going to happen. And it makes me less excited for the show next week, which I'll be real. Don't know if I'm going to watch it next week because I've got better Christmas things to do than watch SmackDown. Holy Moses. I will not watch WWE on my Christmas vacation.
It's the wrong birthday there, sure. Tempest. Wrong birthday. From there we went backstage and we saw King Woods, who was getting cheered by various people who had nothing better to do. Shinsuke, Boogs, Kofi, Mansoor, Ricochet, and Gulak. The Usos arrive. They try and have a little bit of banter with Woods about his cosplays. How silly are his cosplays? Which I just think is ridiculous when you work in a wrestling company. It's just like, it is cosplay.
Yeah, everyone cosplays.
One man pretended he was a zombie for 30 years. He's only just left. What are you talking about? His brother was a demon. What are you going on about? Yeah, I don't know. It's just like it's fine. But then basically they said they were going to have a match tonight or last night, and then they were going to have a match at day one. So the New Day were like, we're going to beat you tonight, and then we're going to beat you at day one for the tag team titles. And the Usos were like, well, we're going to beat you tonight, and then we're going to beat you at day one to keep the tag team titles, which is, you're giving the game away with the fact that you're just having the same match all the time. And you know, when it's just the case of, like, I think the Usos and the New Day, they have a good match. They always have a good match. They have between good and exceptional matches every single time they go to the ring. However, we've seen it so much now. There is just not really much more to it. And the Usos are kind of floundering in this weird middle ground where they keep losing on TV, but it's not advancing their story. Like, it's not really playing into the Roman stuff. He's just overlooking it. And like, fine, but it should be, their losses should mean more than probably most other losses in the thing, because they're a tag team that also factor into the main event scene. So for me, it just feels a bit of a shame for this to kind of, we've just gone back to the well almost immediately. As soon as the Usos and the New Day are back on the same on the same brand, we have just gone straight back to the status quo from a few years ago, which is a shame, because I think the Usos are awesome, and I think the New Day are awesome, and they have incredible matches. But there's nothing to this story.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of disappointing, because I mean, you look at something like this, and you know, it's not quite to the level of like a John Cena and Randy Orton where they just kept doing it and everybody hated it. Like, nobody hates the Usos and the New Day, but at the same time, when you're doing long-term storytelling, you need to give them a different reason to be wrestling and a new way to make the matches feel different than they were. And I don't feel like they've done that. Like, WWE matches are really formulaic as is. So you really need to have something different if it's going to be the exact same people or the exact same teams, if you're just running it back like that. And I don't really think that they've done that, because these matches aren't playing into the main event storyline like the Usos matches earlier in the year were. You know, when the Usos were taking the tag titles from the Mysterios and they were wrestling whoever, and Jey Uso was by himself. All those matches felt important because Roman Reigns and everything, that was the focus of the story. But Roman Reigns' attention has been on Paul Heyman in the story, you know, basically since SummerSlam, and the Usos have just kind of felt a little bit unimportant. And that is further exemplified by them continuously losing to the New Day and being tag champions.
They are the top faction on SmackDown. Like, the Bloodline is the top faction. They shouldn't be losing. There's no need for them to be losing, because you're not taking the belts off them anytime soon, unless you know, and if you do take the belts on them, it should be a slow build to do that, and it should be really meaningful. It shouldn't just be Woods, you know, like if Woods and Kofi win on day one, that's great. Like, I think Woods and Kofi are good tag team champions. They're they're a solid pair of hands, but there's got to be more to it than just, well, you know, we beat you once last week and now we've done it now. So there you go.
Yeah.
Deal with that. I don't know.
I want this to feel bigger than just hot potatoing the tag titles around because they don't mean anything. Like, this would have been such a good chance to go and actually make the tag titles mean a little bit more, because you're putting it into an act that means something already. You just treat the tag titles and everything else like a major part of this story, and you'll get people to care. And I just don't think they're doing that, you know?
Nope.
And I think beating the Usos in the 3-way tag match that they did last week was like, that was borderline, because, all right, at least it's a 3-way tag. You can kind of finagle your way around there. This week, they just lost. They're just the worst team.
They just didn't do well. And also, like, I think this is the thing, like, those titles are going to change hands on day one.
Sure.
Do you know why? Because it's a new year. It's a new day. Yes,
it's
it is.
a new day.
That is exactly why they will change hands, because that is a thing they can say on commentary. And also, it's nice to have a title change on a show. So they will just do that. I bet you. Bet you. We then got a recap of Xia Li coming in and kicking the hell out of Baszler, DeVille, and Natty last week. Natalya then cut a promo saying that if Xia Li steps up to her again, she's the one who's going to need a protector. So Natty's going to get a face kicked in pretty soon, I imagine. That's completely fine. We got a recap of Bobby Lashley from Raw. We then got the Viking Raiders versus Jinder Mahal and Shankey. This just made me really miss the War Raiders, this match. I've not really been plugged into what the Viking Raiders are up to for a while, and this just made me really miss it. This was such a formulaic, boring tag match. This was who's the smallest guy in the ring, because he's going to get beaten up the most, until we can tag the other big guy into the ring, and then he's going to do a hot tag. Oh, look, he did a cartwheel. Then he picked up his mate. End of the thing. That's the match. This went long as well. And it's like I said in the review on WrestleTalk, on the WrestleTalk News channel earlier today, that the Viking Raiders feel like they are operating at 20% of their potential in WWE. They are literally incredible performers, and they are being forced into characters that aren't characters. Like the Viking thing was always just it was like the sprinkle on top of who the War Raiders were in NXT.
Yeah.
And here it's their whole personality. You can only be a Viking, and they don't want for anything. They don't perform. They don't do half the moves that they actually have in their arsenal. Eric is just getting worked over in most matches because he's smaller. So like it just felt stupid and a waste of everyone's time.
Yeah, this kind of felt like, there was a period of time where I would go and see like WWE house shows when they'd come to town, and there'd be like second match on the card tag match with a bunch of people that aren't over, and you just kind of see it, and it's just like, okay, just kind of waiting for it to be over. Like at one point they did like on a house show, they did like Tons of Funk versus 3MB, and I'm just like, I don't care about any of the people in this match, so I'm just watching some wrestling. And that's what this felt like. It was too long to be like a squash, but there also wasn't any sort of character moments to latch onto, because I don't care about Jinder Mahal. I don't care about Shankey. I don't care about the Viking War Machine Raiders, and I really should, because they're great. I saw War Machine in the main event of a Ring of Honor pay-per-view once, and it was incredible. They were doing like swanton bombs off the top rope and stuff to the floor. Like, that's craziness. I know they're so good, and that's fine. It's just, it is what it is. And I miss the War Raiders, but I know how the game is played in WWE, and they seem to be fairly content with waiting and doing this during a commercial break for like 5 minutes, because they're clearly standing in the ring just going, war.
Yeah. Well, no, you can't say war. You can't say war. Tempest. They're not saying war. Now? I don't know what they're saying.
I don't know.
They're probably just going. I think it is just a shame. I think, and it's one of those things where this didn't progress anything. It's nice that there are 2 more tag teams in a SmackDown. In the mix on SmackDown, but like, what are you going to do with them? I want to see that, because do you know what? Like, at least Veer and Shankey versus the Usos, or the Viking Raiders versus the Usos, is a fairly fresh match. So like, let's do that rather than the New Day thing. Like, I know the New Day are much bigger, but you need to be building these other stars as you go anyway. So it would make sense. We then got a recap of
having like a really fun tag feud between the War Raiders and the Usos. Like, those matches would be good. Like, there's opportunity here, and I just don't think they're doing them.
Well, exactly. And the War Raiders the Viking Raiders at their current position in SmackDown can lose without you having to give the win to the New Day or whatever. Like, the Usos can pick up some wins, which they could really do with to make them feel like a legitimate team. We then got a recap of Drew McIntyre slamming his sword into Adam Pearce's table. Look at this! His camera's gone mental. He's got slamming his sword into the table, and then Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss now have the sword. Heyman then has his little interaction with Brock Lesnar that we already spoke about, and then we got Happy Talk, which could get in the sea as far as I'm concerned. It was what a waste of time. Like, the talking segments in WWE are some of the worst segments that have ever existed, as far as I'm concerned anyway. And this really, really, really exceeded expectations as a terrible segment, because it felt like it was, I don't know, like I said in the review, that I don't think you should be booing the heels because it feels like they're actually stealing minutes of your life. It should be because they're saying things that are kind of snide and snipey, and they're taking the mick out of people that you dislike. I think like someone like a Miz or an MJF do a really good job of getting under your skin in that way. Like, it's about kind of playing the crowd, not just annoying the crowd into booing. And this really felt like attempting to annoy the crowd into booing them. Really, really dislike this. The whole pulling the sword from the table thing was too long, wasn't funny, didn't land. Drew comes out, pulls the sword out of the table, and takes a big swing at Corbin. Great.
If no one is getting impaled on this show, why is there a sword? You know, I
that's it.
finally reached the
Chekhov's
breaking point
sword.
with this sword, you know? It's like, what is
Yeah.
the point of this sword if no one is going to get stabbed at some point? And I don't want murder in my wrestling, but do a cinematic match where someone gets impaled or something like that. I don't know. If anybody on this show actually had a sense of humor, the first shot of this stupid sword in the desk backstage would have been like a headset around it. No explanation, but someone would be like, it's Excalibur.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just like, I don't know. I just want like someone I want to be able to watch SmackDown and go, that's funny, and I never do that. And I do that a lot in AEW. So it's just like, I don't know. It's whatever. I want to know who Baron Corbin is blackmailing to get on every single show. Ricochet's not on every show. Mustafa Ali couldn't get on this show in his hometown. Like, what? Why do we have to have Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss on every single show? They're the ones that's like, well, we got to figure out what the Happy Corbin segment is. We got to figure that into the show. It's like, but you don't. This guy does not need to be on every show. I don't think Happy Corbin should be on TV at all, let alone every single show.
See, I disagree with that. I think Happy Corbin has his place. I don't think necessarily it's long talking segments. I get the sense. I get whose sense of humor he's appealing to. The kind of him kind of being the I'm a rich guy and I'm kind of like a heel and ha ha ha, and then he's got this crazy jacked up coke snorting mate or whatever Madcap's got, whatever he's got going on.
I don't know what a Madcap Moss is.
No, neither do I. And it's meant to be. It's just Vince's goofy crap sense of humor. Yeah. It's just what it is. It's just, and that's just a shame, because I do actually think, like, if anyone has earned the right to be on TV sometimes, it is Corbin. He has gone through. He's done everything they've thrown at him, and he's done it without complaint. So well done to that man. And he was always, I thought he was always a very competent guy. He had it bad because they didn't like his little tummy, and then here we are. Like.
Yeah, I mean, like, he was fun when he was doing the broke Baron Corbin thing. You know, it's like he can do good things as long as the writing isn't terrible, but like, what's the point of any of these segments anymore? It's just they schedule in happy talk and they come out and they cut stupid jokes that aren't funny and they're just annoying, and it just takes up time and it never builds to any matches. What is any of this building to? Oh my lord.
I can tell you what it's building to. Well, I won't tell you because that's a spoiler for next week's show. But I have seen that it is going somewhere. But they did tease later that Madcap Moss is going to take on Drew McIntyre on next week's show. I don't think that's what's happened, but that is what they have said so far. Sami Zayn then arrives backstage to demand another Universal title shot. There's a funny little line where he says his doctor says he doesn't need the neck brace or the wheelchair anymore. Sami's really great. They say that instead of that, he likes they're like, hey, you know about the Universal title, but you like the Intercontinental title, don't you, Sami? You love the Intercontinental title. And he was like, oh yeah, I forgot the much bigger prize that I want. Fine, the Intercontinental title. And they're like, well, you're going in a 12 Days of Christmas gauntlet. Later in the show, it was announced that the 12 Days of Christmas gauntlet is Gulak Mansoor, Cesaro, Ricochet, Jinder, Shankey, Eric Ivar, Sheamus, Sami Zayn, Angel Garza, and Humberto Carrillo, all in a gauntlet match. The winner of that match against 12 dudes gets to take on Shinsuke Nakamura for the Intercontinental title.
I feel kind of...
You came up with a name and you booked a match about it.
Yeah. It's like, we need a Christmas match. What? We've already got a Miracle on 34th Street fight? All right, what's another one we can do? 12 Days of Christmas Gauntlet match? All right, book it.
Boom.
In theory, this match could be really good, But I also am like, I would rather do anything else other than watching Jinder Mahal versus Angel Garza on Christmas Eve. Like, yeah, if you just have Sami Zayn somehow beat 11 guys, whatever, I was just like, well, that's preposterous, but sure, I'm with you. That sounds fun. Sami Zayn's great. But I also, it's just like, you look at the people, and it's like, you have to imagine that any of these matches could be like just something that any combination could be a match we'd see on SmackDown. It's like, man, I really can't wait for Ivar versus Shankey.
Yeah, and this is the thing. So, like like the best gauntlet matches that WWE ever do are when one babyface against the odds sort of battles their way through multiple people to inevitably get an RKO from Randy Orton. However, 12 people is so many people to do individual one-on-one matches, which means like half of them are going to be 30-second roll-ups, which, you know, when you've then baked in the idea that like someone has to make like half an entrance and run down to the ring and all that stuff, the pacing of this thing is going to be a monster. It's going to be awful. But, you know, there are some good people in there. I really, really hope that, you know, certain people get a chance to shine. Like Ricochet is someone that I could see. I'd love to see Ricochet take on like 6 people in this match and really get like good fire behind him before you inevitably have Sami Zayn or whoever you've decided beat him and then get the match. I think Sami Zayn should be the one. I think they're pushing Sami Zayn quite hard at the moment. There's all the talk, obviously, of Sami Zayn's contract being up, and you know, these could be ways in which you try to woo Sami back to WWE. So we will see, I guess. We then got Ridge Holland versus Cesaro with Sheamus in Ridge Holland's corner, his beef crisps in his pocket. Out comes Ridge. He hits Cesaro in the ribs with his little billy club when the ref isn't looking because Sheamus has distracted him. Then we cut to the break. We come back and Cesaro is taped up and he's going, I got it. And he gets in the ring and then he gets worked over for a sort of sloppy 5 minutes. And then just as he's firing back up, he gets distracted by Sheamus on the outside, poked in the ribs again, and then just a power slam. Slam. Not even an impressive one, Tempest.
No, I don't know what's happening. Remember when Cesaro was getting a main event push this year? That was this year. Yeah, they've really done nothing with him since. Like, oh, Lord almighty. I don't understand what's happening with this storyline. Like, no one can beat another consistently. Cesaro, I think, got a win in it a couple weeks ago. But like Cesaro and Sheamus and Ridge Holland, they're just like trading wins with each other. And I don't know what the point of any of this is. It doesn't feel like we're getting like Ridge Holland and Sheamus as a tag team. And we're not getting any sort of like mentor, let's go train in the woods style vignettes here. So like, really, what is the point? You know, it's just another way to get Ridge Holland on TV.
We're going to build to another bar fight, I think.
Oh,
bring that back. You know,
yes, we need more bar fights in wrestling. Goodness,
someone's just said in the chat they should reopen the bar. Yes, great minds.
The bar, we are the bar.
The bar were great. That history's not really playing into this too much, and it just feels like a waste of the 2 other talents in there because Ridge just feels a bit green at the moment, and this was a bit clumsy and a bit overbooked, frankly. Like, you knew where it was going. You knew it was going the second it started with a shot in the ribs, frankly, and it you know, I don't know.
And like, stop booking baby faces to get distracted all the time.
Yeah,
you know, I'm kind of over the distraction finish at this point. Like, it makes your baby faces look dumb. People don't want to boo a dumb baby face. Stop making your baby faces look dumb. Baby faces should be smart.
Distractions and roll-ups can just do one, in my opinion. Like, WWE has overused them far too much definitely in the last year of TV. Like, you can't move for these things, and it's just it does just make the matches. Well, in the decade, but I think in the last year, it's just every week it's like three of one, 2 of the other. We then got Naomi coming out we saw Drew backstage looking for Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss. He had a fancy hat on. We then got a Naomi promo. She came out and said that Sonya Deville dodged her last week. She's written a little Christmas list as she does every year, and there's only one thing on it: a match with Sonya Deville. She then demands that Sonya comes out for the match. Sonya says, no, that's very unprofessional of you. When I'm wearing a suit, you will respect my authority. And then she says she has lined up a match for her instead, and it's Shayna Baszler. But Deville tries to start a fight with Naomi. Baszler attacks from behind, goes for the leg. Then Deville calls for the bell. Then Baszler goes for a submission. And then Naomi gets the roll up. And then Naomi walks out past Deville without anything really happening. And we've wasted Shayna Baszler again. Good stuff.
I was about to say,
good stuff. No, that's crazy. Not putting that on.
Who's this benefit? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness me. I'm so done with the whole Naomi Sonya Deville thing. It's been 4 months. Give me something. Like, I feel like we're getting close where we gotta have the match, but every time I think of that, they just do the same thing. They just do the same. It's been the same segment for 4 months.
Yeah, and I think this is the problem, isn't it? It's like Deville's return to the ring has been so prolonged now that I don't think they know what manner in which to bring her back anymore. I think because, like Fightful was saying that graphics have been made up for her being in the women's Money in the Bank match and stuff like that. So like she was clearly slated to return at a different time and
sure,
in bigger circumstances as well. And yeah, now they're just sort of, I think they're now too scared to just pull the trigger on it, seemingly. They want it to feel like it's a big moment when Sonya Deville is going to step back into the ring. But the way in which they're going about doing it obviously involves throwing a load of other women under the bus. Because Natty's got to go down to Xia Li. Baszler's got to go down to Naomi. It's like, just put Sonya back in the ring, please. Like, I don't think anyone is that desperate for Sonya Deville to get back in the ring in such a huge manner that it has to be like we're saving it for best. Like saving it for best, like we're never going to eat it. Like, you know what I mean? Like just pull the Band-Aid off, put it back in the ring, and then build the story from there. Don't waste other people chucking him in under this storyline. Because like I feel like Baszler was saying when her team with Nia Jax broke up that a little bit earlier this year, she was saying, "Oh, cool! Like I'm going to go off and do something else now, and we'll see what that is." And this is what, and I'm going to SmackDown as well, where I might get used better. Look what's happened! Look what's happened!
Surprise! What a shame!
Brilliant stuff. We then saw Happy and Madcap Moss hiding in the cupboard. We then got the New Day versus the Usos in the only good match on the show, really. As you would expect from the New Day and the Usos. This had a lot of fun little bits in it. Woods got a crazy good hot tag where he hit a huge leg drop. I wrote he was literally busting his ass out there because it looked like his tail. He jumped so high to do this leg drop, and then you could just see the moment as he landed. The moment of regret was just like, yeah. I imagine that caned, my friend. I imagine that really hurt. And then so weirdly, this match was built around the key bit of story in this match was early on, the referee misses a tag on the New Day side of things, stopping Woods getting in to make the save with Kofi. Kofi then ends up in a prolonged beatdown segment with the Usos. Woods gets his hot tag. Some other stuff happens, and then the ref misses a tag between the Usos. And then as that argument kind of unfolds, Jimmy turns around right into a Trouble in Paradise, and Kofi picks up the win. So you've given both teams ammunition in the sort of it wasn't a real win, blah, 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 blah kind of argument. Just going to turn this light on, see if that fixes things. Does it? Hey, that's better. Not bad. It's gone dark at 3:45 here. So, hey, welcome to Manchester. We don't have lights. So, yeah, it was just, I just thought this was a weird bit of booking, right? Like, is this just so they have something to talk about next week before day one?
Possibly. That would be my guess, I don't know what the plan is for, I guess I could just look at the spoilers if I'm not going to watch the show, but I don't want to do that. That's cheating. I don't want to get the answers to the test, but I don't know. I don't know where the direction is next week for all this. And this again doesn't feel like enough of a change to make me care about this match once, let alone watch it again. You know, just, I don't know. Like I said before, the Usos were just like the worst team of the two, and they're the champions. And I would much rather have seen the New Day face a tag team and the Usos face a tag team and have both of them win and be like, hey, man, you know how this is. You know, we've been doing this a long time. We're a great
Yeah.
couple of tag teams. You know, just like make it feel big. Like this should feel like two old classic rivals finally coming back together. And it just kind of feels like, yeah, well, we're the only two tag teams on this show that matter. So we're going to wrestle.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you were just gonna have Jinder and Shankey lose anyway, why didn't they just lose to the Usos? And why didn't New Day just beat the Vikings? Like, because the Vikings aren't going to suddenly after day one like be like, whoop, here you go, here's you guys to take on the next tag team champs. It's like that's not happening. They're just there to be on TV for a bit and fill some time. Well. So
it's
ultimately,
a good match though. It was just
it was good, but we've seen it before. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, man. Like I
sometimes I don't want to watch a rerun, you know?
Mm.
It'll be a good rerun, but I don't want to watch a rerun. I want something new.
Yeah, I just, for me, this SmackDown really felt like walking in place, right? Nothing is happening outside of the main event scene, and the main event scene is a scene that we've also had a couple of times already. You know, in this incarnation, not excluded. That's excluding all the Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar history that we've had in WWE. We are just going through the motions of the same sort of storylines over and over again. At least the Roman stuff has the writing to make it feel fresh. The other bits of it just don't quite match up, and you know, this show really did feel like kind of quite lazy wrestling with very boring story going on around it, which is a massive shame because you can when the show has something on it at the end of it that you see how good they can be, it's a real shame to get the rest of it. But we should probably switch over and talk about Rampage now. Do you want to take us through it, Tempest?
Sure.
And we review it.
I know, lucky me. And we do typically have another little bit of branding that we can use again because Rampage. Rampage, because we don't have the Beer 52 logo to worry about anymore. Yes, so Rampage, of course, started with the big 8-man tag team match with the Super Click and Bobby Fish taking on the best friends, Orange Cassidy and Rocky Romero. This was a very fun match. You get a lot of the kind of Super Click spots that you are familiar with at this point. There was a lot of teasing of the big running kiss spot on the cheek for Adam Cole and the Young Bucks, and Orange Cassidy went in and gave the big thumbs up to Adam Cole. They're building their big match. We found out that match is going to be taking place next week, so that's very exciting. Bobby Fish hit a really big Falcon Arrow off the top rope. That was really cool. And Trent Beretta got a lot of interplay in this match. We got a lot of Roppongi Vice stuff with him and Rocky Romero, and then stuff with him and Chuck Taylor, now that the best friends are back together as a team. And then he was able to get the pin, hitting Storm Zero on Bobby Fish for the win. I really enjoyed this match. There's a lot to be excited about with these two factions right now.
Yeah, I think this had, like, as a show opener, this had all the energy that you kind of want from something that's just like, hey, look, here's some really great wrestling. Here's just a bunch of guys. And I feel like this was also like, this was way more over the top than it ever needed to be. Like, there were so many crazy dives and spots, and like, they just had, I think they just they had a really good balance between quite serious, good wrestling with great moments and all the kind of fun you would expect from the kind of best friends side of that. Like, you know, that the whole bit where they kept trying to stop Orange from putting his hands in his pockets, and then he pops up into the old school to do it, and then does his whole like hands in pockets spot. Oh, chef's kiss. Love that. And like Trent kind of, I guess like the through line for this was Trent almost being kept out of the match for a lot of it. Like Trent was the one who was power bombed onto the apron early on. He was attacked in sort of the surgically repaired neck and stuff like that. Like, there was this real kind of build to the moment, and they really earned the hot tag that he gets at that like crucial moment to kind of come in and turn the tide for his team. Then you get the big kind of best friends hug to just top that off right there. It was just like, they knew exactly what they needed it to be. And they had all the fun little moments. They, you know, I think this was kind of 8 guys who knew what they wanted to give the fans. They knew the way to structure a match that was exciting, had the slow moments when they needed the slow moments, had the moments that were just fan service when it needed fan service. This was quality. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, this to me, there's always, and it seems to be the matches that involve the Elite, but there's always like a PWG-esque fun party match where they go out there and they have a big 6 or 8 man tag, and it's just wackiness and lots of big dives, and you get fun, you know, sports entertainment spots with guys like Orange Cassidy and Adam Cole and guys like that. And I do like that because it's variety on these shows.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily need that to be every match because it would get played out. But if you have that be the opening match and allow things to be different in the other matches, I think that's perfectly fine. I think that's perfectly fine. And these guys are the best in the world at doing that kind of style. You know, so getting to see them do their style of match and then getting to switch over and watch something else, that's pretty good with me. And this is a really fun way to open up the show.
And I think also, yeah, they don't get lost in the kind of the overbooking of it, I guess, necessarily. Like, you know, the who can win this and who can't win this and blah, 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 blah. Like here, Bobby Fish was the perfect fall guy. So they were just like, okay, well, he takes that, and then that Fish takes the finisher, and then we get to kind of end on the nice hug and the nice moment. And it's not also they resisted the urge that they have later in the show to just overbook the finish, which was was nice. It was like, you got the hug, that's the thing people wanted to see. There we go. Let's move on. We then saw Dan Lambert and Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. What do you think about that, Tempest?
It's tough. Like, I know that Dan Lambert does a good job with his promos. You know, he cuts good promos. Nothing about any of this makes me excited, though. You know, and I don't know if that's just because he's backing up Men of the Year, and I'm still not like super impressed by Men of the Year, but I don't know. I don't get excited when I see Dan Lambert on my screen. And there was a lot of guys involved in this segment in particular, because he comes out there and he talks about Tony Khan, man, and he's upset that Cody Rhodes is getting a TNT title shot instead of one of his guys, even though Ethan Page has already lost the TNT title shot and stuff like that. It's whatever. He cuts this promo, and then Cody Rhodes does his long, elaborate entrance to come out and interrupt him, and they swipe the mic from each other like 6 times. They just take the mic out of each other's hands, and it never like builds to an actual promo from Cody Rhodes. He just tosses the mic at Scorpio Sky, and then they all fight. And then Dustin Rhodes comes out. He gets in the fight, and then Sammy Guevara comes out, and he's the one that goes and has the big clear the ring moment. And I'm not super into any of these guys right now, I think is the problem. You know, like Cody Rhodes, I think has a lot of potential for a really interesting storyline. But if he's just coming out and being like the babyface of the segment, I don't think that works. Even though they're still booing him after that table spot, like they're just never going to cheer him again. That's fine. It's a little bit harsh, but that's fine. And I'm still not super into the Sammy Guevara TNT title run, you know? So when that's the big buildup of this segment, I'm just like, sometimes there are just segments that don't have the really interesting dynamic performers in them. Like, you know, not everything can be CM Punk and MJF where I'm locked in and I'm super interested to every word, every move. This just feels like a bunch of guys where I'm not super into it right now.
Yeah, I feel like Dan Lambert to me is one of those people who I think I agree with you when you said that, you know, he's good on the mic. That's kind of, and I think his brand of kind of heel promo is working, and I think people dislike him for the right reasons. He's not got go away. He's got the right kind of, like, people enjoy getting involved in the stuff that he's saying and the way that he's doing it. I think him advocating for the Men of the Year maybe, you know, I can feel that too. I feel like they kind of ended up being nothingy characters because Dan Lambert's taking all of the kind of the heat here, really. Then you've got then this segment this segment took the nosedive with Cody coming out. So like Lambert was building up momentum and steam as he was doing this promo, and it was kind of going somewhere. And then Cody's music hits, it's so melodramatic. It's so overblown. Like he gets the full like rising up from the floor and the stage lifting up entrance. Like it just it killed the momentum of where the promo had been to then have Cody sort of wander down and then do the mic snatch spot with Lambert, which Lambert didn't really feel like he didn't really have the acting chops to pull off. And then to sort of go into this big dummy beatdown. Like, do you know what I mean? This was if you're Cody Rhodes, you're thick as bricks because one, you put yourself through a big flaming table for no reason, you still get booed. And two, you try to take on 3 dudes on your own. Like that's just it doesn't make sense. That's not smart you're not a clever babyface to do that, are you? Like, and so to me, it was just like, well, as soon as Cody got involved in this, I was like, oh man, like this was too much. And like, hopefully, if this all builds to a heel turn where Cody Rhodes, like this big long entrance thing, kind of works if it's there to annoy you.
Yeah,
you know
if he's a prick about it.
If he's taking ages for the sake of like lapping it up, he was at least wearing all black, so you know, like the signs are there. But yeah, this is for me. I was just not into this bit, and then Dustin running down kind of was fine, and then Sami running down. Sami running down was at least the most interesting bit after Cody entered the ring for me because like it adds some drama to the Sami Cody thing, which I'm not hyped for, but I'm more hyped for the idea that Cody might turn heel than I am for the match, if you know what I mean. Like, I at least want to see. I just want to see something happen with Cody that reflects what is being thrown at him every week he comes out, because like it feels like, I don't know, like it needs to be acknowledged that what is happening around Cody is completely different from the presentation of the character. And I do want to see that kind of, you want to play off the idea that fine, he still thinks he's a face, but he should at least know that he's a heel. Like there needs to be a wink there somewhere, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like we've gotten that most weeks, you know, like with the golden shovel and everything like that, you know, that has been his character through the Malachi Black feud. This was the week where I was just like, oh, he's just playing the role of the babyface in this segment. Like it didn't feel self-aware anymore. And I need that level of self-awareness in order for me to care about the character, because otherwise it's not a very interesting character. So I don't know. It was what it was, but it was what it was. I'm not super into it, but
it gave you a small. I think the small moment between Sami saving Cody at the end and being like, "I got you," like gives you at least something to get some hooks into when those two eventually face off. Do you know what I mean? Like there was at least something there, and it's building in a direction. So I'm hoping that something comes of it, and this is not just brushed under the carpet when the eventual match happens. We then got a TBS Championship Tournament recap, which was completely fine. The only reason I've made a note of it is because I just really enjoyed Nyla Rose going, "I'll tell you where your destination is, in the goddamn trash." That's great. That's so good. I was expecting anything else. I was expecting it to make sense, you know, like I was expecting it to be like, I don't know, the bottom of the pile, somewhere that's a destination, but the goddamn trash. Beautiful. I love it.
Oh, goodness me. And then we got the submission match, which I kind of felt two ways about, you know, because it was Ty Conti against Penelope Ford. And submission matches are really tough to have on TV anyway, because like you take out all of the near falls, there are no near falls, and near falls are, you know, a really big part of American wrestling. You know, you got to get people into those near falls, and there just aren't any anymore. So you really got to work with the submission aspect of things, and they did that. There were some good near submissions where people kind of got into it, but I don't know. It just it felt like the least important match on the show, and unfortunately, a lot of the time that was the women's match. You know, on Rampage, where you know Ty Conti and Anna Jay seem to have been feuding with the Bunny and Penelope Ford for like 3 or 4 months now, and I'm kind of over that. I kind of want to see them move on to something else. But this match is still, it was all right. It was a solid all right. I'll give them the credit for what they were able to do here. But
I actually really enjoyed this match. I kind of wish it was because it came out. It had like obviously Rampage is not a long show. Like it didn't have it wasn't given loads and loads of time.
Right.
It could have done with being like the pacing could have done with being a little bit like having 5 more minutes and being a little bit slower to like sort of build in the devastation of these submissions. Instead, they were trading submissions and setting them up so quickly and getting out of them so quickly that they kind of lost the impact. I also feel like the kind of psychology of the match got lost somewhere in there. That like seeing them kind of, I like in submission matches that you kind of get where people pick a limb and they go for that limb, and that's kind of like like I'm going for your arm, but you're going for my leg. So like I'm weakened in the grapple, but you're hobbled in the running. Like there wasn't really that psychology going on here. It was much more just a regular kind of bout, and then they would turn a lot of things into submission, which I still think is clever, and I think really shows like plays to sort of Conti's strengths as well as a judoka. Like it's got that kind of feel to it, but I think it could have almost done with slowing right down for a bit of it and really feeling like a kind of martial arts contest for a while, and then you build the wrestling into it slowly over time, and then you kind of go crazy right towards the end. But there was some really creative stuff in here that was really, really fun. I enjoyed the sort of they'd climbed up to the turnbuckle looking like they were going to do a bigger move, and Ty flips over. Then she ends up sort of in this backpack dragon sleeper, which I thought was really fun. Ford hits a springboard cutter and then holds on in this kind of wicked cravat. I thought that was just really, really inventive and cool. I even like the finish where sort of Ford comes in and tries to do the sort of wheelbarrow into a facebuster type thing, and Ty manages to sort of reverse this into this crazy choke where she puts her shin behind her neck and then brings her arms around the front to really like squeeze the life out of her. I thought like for what it was, it just had a very interesting style for a submission match. Like they went for really kind of out there submission maneuvers, which might be kind of what maybe makes it not flow so well, but I thought it gave it this kind of really interesting edge. But yeah, I guess in my head, having like when people have a really defined submission finisher, that's when submission matches truly work, because you know what's dangerous then.
Right.
Like, you've spent years seeing the thing, like, we know the sharpshooter hurts in wrestling parlance. Like we know the figure four is dangerous. We know the label lock is brutal. Like when people have that to kind of build on, then you've got a bit more. Whereas I feel like neither Ford nor Conti are necessarily known for their submission as much as they are known for just general wrestling matches. So this was really good and really inventive, but given a little bit more time to build into with the submission side of things, it could have been really amazing. And I hope they go, but I hope they revisit this with the women, because I think this was really cool. She gets clocked at the end though, doesn't she? Because the bunny rushes in and knocks her out. And Anna Jay makes the save with the chair. Fine. Like this is good. This is going to continue. So there you go.
They're destined to do this forever, it seems. Yeah. No, I thought the match was still pretty decent. And I do like that even if the submission match concept is a little bit of a detraction from a possible match here, it still allows for variety, and I think variety is one of the big benefits of AEW, where just everything that they do feels different from one another. And this match was another example of that, even if not all of it worked, but I think they still did a really good job with what they had. So it still gets a mild thumbs up, but a thumbs up nonetheless.
What was next, Tempest?
I mean, we've got the main event left. We've got a bunch of announcements for next week. We've got various matches coming. They kind of just announced a bunch of matches that they've been building up to for a long time. Like CM Punk, MJF, they're doing their 6-man tag. Punk, Sting, and Darby Allin against FTR, and MJF is going to be on Dynamite next week. That's very exciting. CM Punk wants to team with Sting. That's very important, and now he's getting to do that. So happy Phil. We're getting Cody Rhodes and and Sammy Guevara on Christmas Day. That should be really fun. We're getting Adam Cole and Orange Cassidy next week. That should be really fun. There's just a lot to look forward to, and I'm really excited for the week that'll be. And then we got the main event, 10-man tag team matches. Eddie Kingston, the Lucha Brothers, Santana and Ortiz took on 2.0, Daniel Garcia and the Acclaimed. This match, of course, started with a big brawl. And I'll be honest, I kind of lost track of this match right off the bat, because they get in the ring and the bell rings. So I was like, was there a DQ or a count out? And I was like, oh wait, the match hasn't started, because they were just brawling for a long time.
Yeah, because they ran out to interrupt Caster as he was doing his rap, and they ran out and stopped it just as he would get into the punchlines. But yeah, I thought that was fun. I really enjoyed also the little interview beforehand with Mark Henry, where Kingston just walked off. 2.0 started firing off, and Kingston was walked off and then just came back and be like, "Are you done? Cool, let's play the music. We're coming out. Bye. Say the thing, Mark." That's good stuff. That's great character work from Kingston. Yeah. But
also,
the matches...
Hook is wrestling next week. I forgot to mention that. Hook is wrestling Bear Bronson. I can never forget about Hook.
Hook is wrestling a bear.
Yeah, he's wrestling a bear. It'll be a different kind of Hook match. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be so fun. But
yeah, I think it'd be really interesting to see.
As far as this match goes, we got all the kind of interplay that you would expect. We got lots of big dives and high spots for the Lucha Brothers, and there wasn't as much play between them and Santana and Ortiz as I was expecting. There was a lot more of that, right when the Lucha Brothers won the tag titles after All Out, but they kind of put that on the back burner for a little while. And now it seems like that's going to be the case again, because Daniel Garcia eventually was able to pin Eddie Kingston, which the crowd was not happy about. They are not prepared to see big upsets like this. Because I don't remember the last time we saw a huge upset like this of a really low tier guy beating an upper tier guy like this. And it seems like they're going to be working that into the storyline for Eddie Kingston. He's had a few big wins in a row. He doesn't seem to be very happy right now. Maybe he'll turn heel, who knows. But that led to 2.0 and the rest of the heels beating down on Eddie Kingston. Jurassic Express made the save, ran them off, and then held the tag titles and gave them to the Lucha Brothers. They shook hands, but it looks like that is the next tag team feud. I'm very interested to see where this goes. I think Christian Cage could be turning heel in the near future. I'd be interested in seeing that. I want to see heel Christian against Jungle Boy. I think that would be a really good match to build to. Maybe have that on Revolution or something like that. That match has some legs to it for me. And again, I don't know this, but I think because they're holding off Santana and Ortiz against the Lucha Brothers, it makes it more likely that Santana and Ortiz will be the ones to beat them for the tag titles.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I wouldn't be upset by that at all. So I'm happy with it either way. I thought this was a decent main event, but that finish was a little bit wonky. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this felt
late at the fans.
To me, this felt like a little bit overbooked. The finale of this, there was already a lot going on in this match with 10 people involved. So there was already pretty full to brim, but they were trying to juggle all these different stories as they kind of built them over the course of the thing. So Santana Ortiz got sort of swept under the rug here. They just sort of dropped off the face of the earth by the end of it. Didn't really have a lot going on. The Luchas have the big face off with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, and the little fist bump when they get the belts back. But yeah, that seems like that's the direction we're going to go in. The Garcia thing, like you said, it sucks the energy out of the room. And I don't hate that.
Yeah.
Because you've got to have something different every so often. It's just that they just tried to get the energy back by having a weird other spot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They did a thing that honestly they don't do very often at all, which is they genuinely had a legitimate upset. And I think AEW does a lot of pandering to its fans. They hired CM Punk. They couldn't be more. What do you want for Christmas, guys? It's CM Punk. It's CM Punk. They couldn't be more treating you to the things that you want to see. And I feel like here, this was a moment that you either, because they don't really do this kind of finish at all, luxuriate in it. Like,
Yeah.
let it play
Yeah.
out. Let the fans be annoyed. Like, genuinely let them be annoyed. Let us see Eddie Kingston annoyed. Don't
Yeah.
shove in a load of other stuff to try and get the heat back. And then do this like this. They did this really weird cut to Eddie Kingston like running off Garcia off the stage, which came way after Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus had made the save and kind of started handing over the belts. Like all the pacing of this ending was wrong when actually they should have been doing. They should have been doing Garcia like really like leaned into that as the thing. That's the big story that people are going to take away from this moment. Like, they're going to take away the fact that Garcia was the one who pinned Kingston with a handful of tights and he cheated, but he pinned Kingston, and you're annoyed about it. Kingston's annoyed about it, and Garcia needs to be on stage hamming it up in front of everyone, including the people watching, to just nail home the idea that you should hate him. Like, he needed that, and you took that. So now it feels like a moment that the show didn't even really want to focus on. Like, it should have been bigger. And I think that's a real shame, because I think, the match was, I think like you, I got lost in the match like I got lost in Michael Bay's Transformers having a fight. Like, I couldn't really make heads or tails of what was going on, but I enjoyed the colors and the things moving. But like, I just wish the ending had a bit more clarity to it, because it felt like too many cooks for me.
I definitely agree. You know, you should have had like Eddie Kingston sitting in the ring, despondent or frustrated or freaking out or something, while Daniel Garcia is celebrating going up the ramp with 2.0, being obnoxious and everything. Like, that would have been a really solid way to go off the show, but you know, instead they shifted the focus to something else, and in doing so, you underplayed that moment, sacrificed the ending of the match, and then just tried to move on. And I don't think that worked as well as it could have. But still, I thought it was like a decent episode of Rampage. Not the best that I've seen. You know, there were some things on it I wasn't the biggest fan of, but there were still good moments for sure.
Yeah, I really like. I think the opening match was really fun. Gave you kind of what you wanted to see from Trent's return, like, and from kind of all those characters in the ring. I thought the submission match was really smart and clever. I thought the Dan Lambert section and the Cody section tanked for me, but I can see the appeal of Lambert talking. Like, I do like him. I wish the head section hung together a bit better. And the main event was fun, chaotic mess. But I wish that there was some clarity leaving it. Like, I don't mind the match being a completely crazy spot fest, but the ending, you need to concentrate on what the story is coming out of it, because you kind of sucked all of the I guess you kind of sucked all of the meaning out of two different moments there by having two different moments playing out on TV at the exact same time. So a little bit of focus would have been appreciated. But I thought I thought Rampage was a pretty good show. Like, I mean, comparative to Smackdown, there's a big thumbs up from me. Comparative to other AEW shows, it's a medium thumbs up from me.
I think that's fair.
And that's our review.
Shall we get into our lovely podcast shoutouts for all of our Pledgehammers on the $25 and above tier? You can go and subscribe to our Patreon and get a lovely wrestling nickname, which will get read out on a show like this, including not Eugene, Andrew Dinsmore. Yeah.
Way. Smash the glass ceiling, CJ Slatton.
Yeah. Yeah. King RK Jones. Yeah.
WrestleTalk Extra Pole Master, Lendell Brenson.
Yeah. Probably better than Kyle, Philip O'Reilly. Yeah.
One day we'll get a sound effect for the claps or something. Justin the Human Godzilla Wooshtrack. Yeah. Names I've never read before. Yeah.
All-Star Chuck Turner. Yeah.
Yeah. The Real Boss Matt Robinson. Yeah.
Yeah. Chris Hellfire Brimstone. Yeah.
Yeah. Infinite Crisis Chris Jenkins. Yeah.
The Venerable Jesse Venable. Yeah.
Yeah. Pick him up, Loot Sponge. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for your support on Patreon. As always, it really does help us out, and we really, really appreciate it. So if anyone else wants to go and find out and get one of these shout outs, check the info in the description down below and sign up to our Patreon. Let's hop into the final Ultra Chats to round out the show. Zoe Sung has come back in Tempest, first and foremost, with another Pokemon. Another Pokemon wrestler in another Pokedex intro. Another Pokedex entry for a wrestler. I've lost the ability to talk now. I don't usually work Saturdays. Since there wasn't a pod on NXT, I'll give another one. Von Wagner, the generic Pokemon. This Pokemon has a heart. This Pokemon is also known for working out in the woods, bromance, and possibly being a serial killer.
Sounds like Dexter Lumis.
Does sound like Dexter Lumis. Working out in romance. William Rosmer. I can't believe they turned Men of the Year face last night. It came out of nowhere. I feel even more secure in Kyle O'Reilly showing up soon since Fish ate the pin. Yeah, I guess anyone in the ring in AEW turns face when touched by Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes, who's got the Midas. Rhodey Codes. He's got the Midas touch for face and heel. Bless his little heart.
I was gonna say, yeah. Poor guys. Poor Cody.
Do you think he actually believes that he's just going to stay being a face? Like, surely at this point, like,
I think at some point he did.
Do you think he thought the flaming table would be the thing that would like get him back on track? Genuinely,
I think he might have. I think there was some part of it where he also needed, like, you know, it's like, oh, I got to do something big in Atlanta and everything, and this is good enough, you know, but. I do probably think that he was just like, this will win him back. I'm going to go through a flaming table. And they're just like, nah, bruh, we don't care about that. We're still going to boo you.
It was cool, but hey, man.
Like, you're still Cody Rhodes.
We haven't just for doing that, Rhodey Codes. Stupid Rhodey
you're
Codes.
Just crispy Cody Rhodes now.
Crispy fried Rhodey Codes. The legit underboss says that with the Owen being announced as a men's and women's tournament, this is the Owen Hart tournament. Who are your picks to win? Ooh, who could use a win?
No, I don't know, because this is like really complicated. Because like again, I want to know what like the stakes are for the Owen. You know, whether it's like, because if it's like a G1 climax type deal where you have all the big stars in it. And you have the person, you know, whoever wins gets a title shot at whatever pay-per-view or something. Like if it's for a title shot and it's a big deal, then it'll probably be like an upper mid-card breaking through the glass ceiling level guy, you know. Yeah. But if it's like, oh, this is our showcase tournament for the younger talent, then I could see maybe someone like a Dante Martin winning something like this, you know, like give him something like that. Maybe Hook. You never know, but it's always Hook.
The correct answer, Tempest, is Hook. So there you go. Who would you like on the women's side?
I don't know, because if Ruby Soho doesn't win the TBS championship, I could see Ruby Soho winning something like that. You know, Ruby Soho to me has worked her way into the conversation of just like, you know, if she won, I wouldn't be upset if she won the TBS title, that is. But if she doesn't do that and they go with Thunder Rosa or Jade Cargill or whoever, then I think the Owen would be a lovely next possible big win for Ruby Soho to get.
I could see to be fair, I could see like a Ty Conti kind of walking away with that as well. Like I feel like she's kind of building that momentum behind her, and I feel like she's been in a position higher than that in AEW, and maybe this is something that could cement her, sort of really give her a good chance to build to being like a proper main eventer in future. Let's talk about the final one from Legit Underboss, who said, I was worried for the AEW Christmas show going against 2 NBA games and an NFL game at the same time, but then Tony said, send Hook.
Well, the ratings will be reflected with the Hook.
Exactly. I mean, it's genius counter programming. Tony, well known for his counter programming. But that is all we've got time for.
Smackdown if you wanted. Just send
Hook.
He
could, if he wanted. He just needs to send Hook a bit more. But that is all we've got time for, talking about Smackdown and Rampage. Thank you so much for joining us on this Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning, wherever you are. I'm sure it's morning where you are, Tempest.
It is indeed.
We've very much enjoyed. It's snowing. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
We had snow for a very brief period of time, for like one day in Manchester. It was quite nice. So anyway, thank you very much for joining us, everyone. We'll be back later next week to talk more wrestling with you on the various podcasts. I don't know what they are. I don't do the podcast anymore. So, just if you've watched them before, remember what days they're on and watch those, and remember who does them, because I don't know. It's not my job. But yeah, and like, do likes and comments and all that kind of stuff. We'll see you later. Jam that jam. Bye, guys. Bye. I'm gonna go see Spider-Man now. See ya.